Now let's talk about mounting the virtual hard disk. Now in 2 movies here in the course, should be right before this one, but that's not always necessarily the way we finally get it all put together. But I did a video called Creating Virtual Hard Disk or Creating VHDs Part 1 and Part 2. And in Part 2, I actually created a virtual hard disk out there in the computer management tool. And just to understand that virtual hard disks can be mounted and accessed just like physical disk. We don't have to use Hyper-V to create and manage these things all the time. Now, when we talk about mounting a VHD, you'll also hear the word attached. They interchange those terms right here in the software. You hear people do it all the time. You'll hear the word unmounted or detached. They both mean the same thing. Okay, attached is the same as mounting. Detached is the same as unmounting. Now there's 2 ways to mount or attach a virtual hard disk. You can do it directly by just double-clicking or right-clicking on the .vhd file. Now the right-click will always work. Double-click works if you have a hypervisor installed and so forth. But I can just right-click on the actual VHD file out in File Explorer, choose Mount, and it works. Then I can select the VHD in File Explorer, click on the Manage tab and use the ribbon up at the top and click the Mount button in the ribbon. Then I can also use the Disk Management tool, click on the Action menu item and choose to attach the VHD. And then I can also browse to the HD file and select it first, and then I can go to the Action menu. And the VHD gets mounted, and then once it's mounted, it will appear as a drive or as drives. Keep in mind, if within that VHD, if I have more than one partition, it'll show up as however many drives out there. So what I want to do now is, let's jump out there to Server Manager and take a look at the Computer Management tool. And inside the Computer Management tool, we're going to take a look at Disk Management. And you'll notice right down here, here is, let me scroll down just a little bit for you. This is my virtual disk. Notice it's 322 megabytes. And it is on this Kingston E drive right here. It's on this E drive, and that 332 megabits is part of what's missing from this 16 gigs here. Now I want you to notice a couple of things. If I right click out in this area on this disk, I can do things like mark it as active, change drive letters, format, and that sort of thing. But if I come over here on the actual disk area, the disk naming area, identification area, notice I can detach this VHD. Now let me show you something. If I go out into File Explorer, there's my VHD. It's actually physically on this disk, and there's the file. Okay, so I'm going to go back out to Computer and then jump back out into the Computer Management. And if I right-click this and detach it and say OK, and it's giving me a little warning there, if I go back out here, you'll notice my virtual drive is gone. It's not available up here. My F drive went away. Now to attach it again, I'll show you a different way. I can double-click, actually go to the VHD file, and there it is. Then I can just right-click and say Mount instead of Attach. Notice it said Mount there. And now, if I come back out here and go to the computer, my file is back. All right. So I'm going to go back out here. I'm going to right-click it. And notice if I choose Mount here, it'll toggle it off. It didn't say Unmount, but it did toggle it off. And if I go back out to Computer, sometimes it'll toggle it off and sometimes it won't. I'm not sure what's going on there. That's actually good to leave in there. The best way to detach that thing, the most for sure way, is to come out here, right-click this, detach the VHD, and it will go away. Then if I want to attach it again, I can right-click here and attach the VHD. It'll ask me which one are you talking about. I can browse out. There it is on the Kingston E drive. Click Open, say OK. It will show up down here in the Disk Management tool. And once it does that, then I can see it out here again. This is a cool little exercise for you. Start off with a thumb drive, format that thumb drive, get all your data off of it, format it as NTFS, then go through the process that I went through in creating VHDs Part 2, create you a virtual hard disk on that, and just practice mounting it, unmounting it, seeing all the things that can happen to it. You'll see some strange, odd stuff every once in a while, but welcome to IT, right? So that's just a real quick, simple look, way to get your head around mounting virtual hard disks.